For most, the Philippines is a haven for diverse cultures to thrive collectively. From a rich and colorful history to Filipinos' resilience when a catastrophe takes place. Natural resources abound the Philippines, shielding its people from famine, drought, and poverty. Indeed, a country that is so close to being perfect, setting aside its various flaws. Oceans that are crystal clear, enticing everyone within their reach, is a surfer's home in paradise. Mountains that are built to be perfectly cone-shaped, and waterfalls that stand as grand as the cathedrals in Manila, creates a quite the mesmerizing scenery.
Wait, hold up. Wait a minute. What about the indigenous people of Mindanao?
Education department is in the hot seat for suspending a number of schools in the Davao region. The schools were supposedly being used to recruit students to join communist rebels.
Hustisya ang isinisigaw ng iba-ibang progresibong grupo sa pagkakapatay ng 3 miyembro ng Lumad at Manobo community. Nanawagan ng mga progresibong grupo, itigil na ang mga patayan.
Kabilang ang eskwelahang ito sa 55 salumpungan ng Lumad School sa Davao Region na sinuspinde ng Department of Education kapag tuluyang ipinasara. Mahigit 1,000 estudyante Lumad ang maapektuhan sa Region 11.
Hindi po kriminal yung mga Lumad na ating mga
We
kababayan.
left the Lumads on the battlefield to deal with this harsh reality on their own. Their eyes alone bear stories that beg to be told, but we choose not to. Everything that was instilled in us was a sweet little lie.
Ako si Alana Sofia de Castro, isa ka kamayo, nagagikan sa Marihatag, Surigao del Sur. And I am a proud Lumad.
When introducing, I always introduce myself as a Filipino and a Kamayo. When people ask, why is it necessary for you to say that you are a Kamayo when introducing? Well, because the indigenous people, the very first pillars of liberation in the country, they are the very revolution and they are the very freedom. When people say, why? Why do you have to say that you're indigenous? Why do you have to say that you're a Kamayo? Because representation matters. Because when there is representation, slowly by slowly, we can tear down prejudices that are inside our own kin's tongue. And with that, education is not bought by penny, but are now free and accessible to every minority there is.
The enemy of education in regards to indigenous communities is the government. Indigenous communities has this thing called backward schools. It is derived from the word backward, and backward. It's where a safe haven where indigenous students learn, listen, and breathe peacefully. But the main reason why backward schools are not in control of indigenous communities now is because it is bombarded by state forces. Our teachers are being massacred, our students are being massacred in painting them as rebels for the NPA, which is not true. For the reason why there is a backward school is because students wish to create a safe haven and evacuation for them to read, live, and educate. First and foremost, urging the government to stop bombing backward schools. Second would be alternative learning system, where each crevice of indigenous communities are being given the privileged education. Third one is stopping the government and capitalistic greed from grasping or grabbing their ancestral lands, ancestral waters and such. For land is as important as education, because where would you relieve your backward schools if there is no land? Where would the students educate if there is no land? The The other one would be stop red tagging our teachers. For our teachers are there to first and foremost educate us, not only in reading and writing, but also our Miranda rights, what we should say, what we should do, or what we should think when this happens. The other one, and the last one, would be to stop killing our indigenous people, our indigenous leaders, and our indigenous communities. Peace and liberation. Keep your hands off Lumad, keep your hands off ancestral lands, and listen to what the indigenous communities are crying. As an indigenous student, what would I want about it? What I want, peaceful education, where indigenous students have no fear of guns, have no fear of bloodshed, have no fear of going to school. I also wish for accessible education, where indigenous students do not have to cross rivers, do not have to climb mountains just to get a reading or just to write. For it is unethical. Because what is education if not enlightenment? But what is enlightenment if not prejudice? When we say prejudice, they do not deserve education because we do not want it. That is not true. We do want it. It's just that the state forces and internal forces, capitalistic greed, mining companies, plantations, loggings are the ones keeping us from peaceful education.
Ako po si Susana Ramos from Bicad City Mayor's Office, the Barangay Cultural Communities Affairs Division, 11 Tribes Coordinator. Okay, many things that the government already done to our indigenous people's brethren, especially the government was looking forward for their needs, and then binigyan na tayo ng karapatan, which is we call it IPRA Law or Indigenous People Rights Act 8371, which is Indigenous People Rights Act 8371. So we can see the further rights of indigenous peoples, which is our rights more on to protect the indigenous people, especially the rights, especially meron tayong mga karapatan kagaya ng mga tribal datos natin na pwede sila magkaroon ng 2 asawa or 3 sa yung kaya nila tinatawag namin na duwaya. So nandoon yan sa rights, tsaka yung rights natin na pag-aralin yung ating mga kabataan, turuan ng tama, yung culture at tradition, beliefs and practices we must protect. I think, for nowadays, indigenous peoples are not so like before na kasi meron na tayong proper education na ibibigay, at saka mostly sa mga indigenous people natin ngayon, even though our tribal council of elders, yung mga matatanda natin, tinatawag natin na mga ancestors natin or yung mga lolo-lola natin, nagkaroon tayo ng mga literacy program. Yung hindi marunong magsulat, nakakasulat na, tsaka nakakabasa na rin. Kaya hindi na tayo medyo nahihirapan sa ating mga kapatid na mga katutubo dito sa Davao. Yes, exactly, precisely, ma'am. Our government already do intervention for our indigenous people, especially sa education. Ito yung pinalalakas natin ngayon to educate our young people, our children. It's because we already learn from our yung mga matatanda natin noon. So aware na tayo ngayon na yung mga kabataan natin hindi na sila behind sa education. Kung sabihin natin na yung equality, ginagawa na ng gobyerno talaga natin yan. Kasi makikita natin, free na yung mga indigenous people natin na mga kabataan ngayon. Meron na tayong scholarships through the office of the NCIP, yung tinatawag natin sa EBSO, nagbibigay din ng scholarship sa kanila. In Marilog and Paquibato, mostly our schools there is just only catering the high school, elementary high school students. Pagka-college na, kailangan magpunta sila dito sa downtown, sa Davao City, kasi kung meron man mga doon is college schools, maybe hindi talaga ma-afford ng mga IPs na kasi mostly yung kinukuha lang nila is vocational, from test that trainings lang talaga, kasi madudul out yan sa kanila doon. Ihahatid yung programa doon sa lugar which is nandoon yung ating mga kapatid na mga katutubo. Government make a way how they can help the indigenous people living in our rural areas, especially farming. They provide seeds, plants like that from Department of our Agriculture, and then undergo trainings from Dolly, TESDA, like that, for their livelihoods. Magawa naman ng tama yung gobyerno para sa atin. In return of that, what they do to us is kailangan din natin gawin ang tama para sa atin. For me, in my own opinion, gusto ko lang mangyari na yung sa ating mga katutubo, kailangan na gumawa lang tayo ng tama, respetuhin natin ang bawat isa, kasi yun ang tulay ng ating pag-progress. Tsaka yung sa INSA-IP naman, kasi yun sila talaga ang may karapatan na humahawak sa mga karapatan ng mga katutubo. So, yung challenge ko lang sa kanila, titignan nila yung pinaka nandoon sa pinakakawawa na area or pinaka need talaga ng intervention. Then they would give information, especially to the LGUs or local government, city government, like that, para ma-inform naman yung office kung meron pa dapat tulungan, bigyan ng kalinga. So, yun lang. At saka, bilang indigenous people, we must respect one another, love one another, magtulungan tayo para sa ating ikakabuti. Yun lang, at magandang araw sa ating lahat.
At the end of the day, our differences with each other will not cease, so we must address them now or never. The indigenous people and the government have had a long dispute with each other, because one party may have seemed to fail to hear the battle cry of the other party. For centuries, indigenous people have been despised, looked down upon, and neglected, to the point where they could barely keep up with city dwellers, let alone access basic healthcare and education. On the flip side, the government affirms that they are doing nothing but the best for the indigenous people, so that their rights are at least on par with ours. This long dispute should not define the fate of generations to come and needs to be rectified by all means. Moreover, the social-political dilemma that is plaguing us now has a silver lining. It has allowed us to see life through different lenses and empathize with marginalized. Our children depend on us now, so let us be dependable. We need to build a better Mindanao and world for them to keep the fire burning and become the bright light for others when their world becomes dark. And everything starts with education.